Hey guys, what's going on? Andrew coming at you. In this one, I have to talk about what happened in Miami over the weekend with the building collapse and why this would never happen in Sweden. And again, I'm not saying Sweden's better than the US or anything like that, but in this episode, I have to just say that I'm a bit disappointed. You know, when I was a kid, I remember learning about this earthquake in Turkey and Ankara, and a lot of these buildings collapsed due to the fact that they weren't built correctly, they weren't built well enough to withstand this force of this hurricane, and that was due to not having a lot of regulations in place. And I remember thinking to myself, you know, thank God I'm in America where we have more regulations in place. Like this could never happen here. Go along to over the weekend, we've had this building collapse. And I just find it interesting because when I was growing up, I often heard like regulation is bad, regulation's bad for government, it's bad for business. You know, you don't need to have all these rules in place when it comes to regulations because the economy, the market can self-regulate. And it's just interesting that a building made in the heart of the Reagan era in the 1980s has collapsed. And here I am sitting in a building, our new apartment, that's from the 1950s. And I don't have to worry about it collapsing because one, the building was built really, really well from the get go. And then two, because of I know there's regulations in place, I know there's regular building inspections here. So it's just interesting to me in that sense. I guarantee what's going to happen in the United States is simply that as more information comes out, there had to be a warning sign. You know, buildings just don't collapse out of nowhere. There has to be structural damage. The building would also show signs of shifting. And I guarantee you what happened was people knew about this, but they turned a blind eye. They probably necessarily didn't think that the building was going to collapse. Maybe they knew that was a risk, but they didn't think of it in that sense, all because of money, all to save money. And the thing is, like, you can't bring those people back that lost their lives. And I've often heard Swedish people talk about the materials that are used with building homes here in Sweden, that some of the things that are done in the United States, they would just not do there. They wouldn't do it out of the same materials or build it in the same structural way because it would never pass their inspections here. And you know, the interesting thing is I'm sure there's a lot of people that are in Sweden, they're contractors. Maybe they don't like all these rules and regulations in place. I'm sure it's really annoying. You know, the rules and regulations shouldn't be for the contractors. It's to protect the people living there. And to just think that people owned and rented out this apartment. But imagine, you know, buying an apartment, saving up for it, and it collapsing due to structural damage. This is not okay. And time and time again, I just get frustrated by this. I'll give an example. Like, I am tired of companies and businesses and organizations doing whatever it takes to save money and not like the morally right thing to do with the power, I guess, of being like a corporation where no person can be legally held accountable. And I really hope in this instance that the right people are held accountable. In my opinion, if you neglect a building like this and people die, you should be charged with murder because you are the direct result of this. I'm hoping that this could be a wake-up call to the United States that, yeah, these building codes, these rules and regulations, they're important. Regular inspections are important. And you got to have like an independent third party doing it and not someone connected to the building. Like, it's not enough because what probably happened in this situation is they probably had someone inspect it, they told them it needed to get fixed, but there maybe wasn't a follow-up or it didn't go any further. You know, there has to be an independent group that are checking these buildings. I guess this is just a rant in a sense, but yeah, there's a reason this doesn't happen in Europe. And in most cases, what happened in the United States only happens in developing nations. And it can be really frustrating at times when the United States is one of the richest countries in the world. And yet we still have some issues and some problems that developing nations have. This should not be happening in the United States. We are better than that. And all it simply comes down to is how we build these buildings and rules and regulations. And this won't be the last time that this happens in the United States. And I hope more can be done because the people that are living there didn't get protected. And that maybe this will get swept under the rug, but I really hope that this leads to some change. And I'm thankful that I live in a Swedish building that is built well, built solid, and even though it's from like the 1950s, the thing is they built buildings really well back then as well, and they still had a lot of good rules and standards that now are applied to the building today. I know if there's any kind of structural damage to this building, it's going to be found out, it's going to be seen. It's not going to get swept under the rug. That's my rant on this one. I'm a bit upset, so you'll have to forgive me there, and I'll see you guys in the next one.